I've been in the police department for 27 years, and if I tell you that I've been to numerous scenes where we've had a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 25-year-old that's shot, and if you've been to one, you've been to 10, you've been to 30, you've been to 40, you don't get used to it. You don't get used to it. I mean, we have a 14-year-old young lady who had her entire life in front of her, and it was just taken away for absolutely no reason at all. Now, we must say that this has to be the last time it happens. I don't care if it's the last time or not, I really don't. All I want to know now is everybody in this room going to do something to try their best to stop it happens again? And I just want to reflect on that. A 14-year-old young lady that's riding a bus, and there's a bullet that comes through and lodges into her brain. Not only must we stop this from happening, we can stop this from happening. So this was a crime that we could have avoided. And her life is going to mean nothing that if everybody in this room, every single person says, I am going to do something differently to try to minimize the fact that it happens again. And if we try to do this, we are going to save a life. I've been to millions of scenes. This individual, can you just turn around and see this particular person outside with the tie on? This is Inspector Scott Henry, who's the inspector of the Detective Bureau, who's in charge of the case to apprehend the individual who did this. Inspector Henry worked for me as a lieutenant when we worked at the 79 Precinct in Bedford-Stuyvesant. And there's been numerous occasions where we've had similar situations, and it affects us the same. He was down in my office today. The person who's in charge of the gang division, the person who's in charge of the narcotic division, the chief of the detectives, Inspector Mamaro, and we went over this case step by step by step by step. And what the litmus test was, to everybody in the room, this was your daughter who's the recipient of this bullet. Now, how are you going to handle this particular case here? And I expect that and demand that from Inspector Henry. And I have to throw that demand to you as well. Because, see, we can stop this crime from happening in our community. Let me tell you something, it can be stopped. Because the bad guys and the bad girls, they're like entrepreneurs. They look at where is their opportunity to do this, and I'm going to apply my craft. And if the community galvanizes together and put our differences aside and say we are going to work together to stop this, listen to me. I got 27 years in the police department. I don't know 28 years of experience, but I know more than 26 years of experience. And I'm telling you now that we can stop situations like that. We are supposed to stop situations like that. This young lady could have grown up and came up with the cure to cure cancer. And now we're going to be attending a funeral very, very soon. And it's heartening. It's heartening if it took place in any community. But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that it hurts a little bit more that it's in a community that my daughter and my son socialize in and live in as well. So this is bothering me more than most. And I'm just asking for everybody in this particular room to say, I'm going to do one thing different tomorrow than I did today to ensure that this doesn't happen in our particular community again. And I'm going to do the best that I possibly can to ensure that Inspector Henry, Inspector Mamara, and Captain Malloy, and Chief Secreto, that we do all we possibly can, that we investigate this case just like this was our son or our particular daughter. Because you know what? I feel as though this was my son and my daughter that happened to. Because it happened to Asia, it could happen to anybody in this particular room, unless we say, enough is enough. The flip side of that is that when we apprehend the individual who did this, this is another youngster, a young man whose life is going to be ruined. And this person, if he was on the right track, he could have grown up and been a positive contributor to this particular community. And when I see young men and young women go to jail, that's because adults have failed them to a great degree. So I'm going to try to do something better tomorrow than I did today and the next day to ensure that this does not particularly happen again, because it's a crime that did not have to occur. Inspector Henry, you worked for me a long time. I know how good you are, and I want to make sure that you pledge to everybody in this particular room that you're going to do all you can to apprehend this particular individual. We broke down every lead that we had. We looked at if this lead didn't work out, was option 2. This lead didn't offset, is option 3. We're working around the clock, and we're going to do all that we can to ensure that the 113 is the safest community that we possibly can. With that being said, I'm just going to say is this.